I should have known something was wrong the moment my heart stuttered like a broken engine the first time she said my name. Or maybe the real warning was when I realized I had spent 3 full minutes staring at her hands holding a coffee mug, wondering why the hell my stomach felt like it was falling off a cliff. It was ridiculous. Or maybe terrifying. Maybe both. But that was the beginning. Her name was Elise Carter, my mother's best friend for as long as I could remember. The woman who used to pat my head when I was little and bring me peppermint candy every Christmas. She was the woman whose laughter filled our kitchen every Sunday morning. The one who stayed through every family storm. The one who knew how to calm my mother when no one else could. She was woven into the fabric of my upbringing like a thread I never expected to pull. But when I turned 22, that thread snapped loose in the most inconvenient, disorienting, breathtaking way possible. It happened in the middle of June in a quiet suburb outside Seattle, where the lawns were too tidy and the air too warm to carry heartbreak, yet somehow it always did. I had just come home from college for the summer, exhausted, directionless, and questioning every decision I thought I had figured out. My mother had insisted I needed rest. Elise had smiled and agreed. And maybe that smile was the knife. A gentle, polite knife I didn't feel until it was already inside. I still remember that first evening back home. I walked into the living room, still dusty with late afternoon light, and there she was, standing beside the open window with the lace curtains brushing against her arm. She wore a simple navy blouse and jeans, but somehow she looked like she had stepped out of a magazine cover meant to ruin my entire sense of self. Her hair was longer than before, falling in soft dark waves over her shoulders. Her eyes, a deep warm brown, lit up when she saw me. "You grew up so fast," she said, her voice a quiet breeze drifting through me. I should have just laughed awkwardly. I should have said something normal. But no. My brain took a vacation and left me standing there, staring like a stunned idiot. "Hi," I finally managed. And then, as if the universe felt I wasn't suffering enough, she walked toward me with arms open. I froze. But she wrapped me into a hug anyway. Her perfume hit me first, subtle like rain clinging to cedar branches. Her warmth hit second. My heartbeat hit third, trying to escape my rib cage. I pulled away too quickly, pretending I dropped something in my bag. My mother didn't notice. Elise did. "Are you all right, honey?" she asked softly. Honey. I swear the word nearly killed me. People talk about love at first sight. That wasn't this. This was love at the 10 millionth sight, but noticed for the first time. A revelation. A betrayal. A spark. A disaster. The beginning of a summer I would never escape from. The funny thing is, I tried. I tried so damn hard. For days afterward I kept avoiding being alone with her, always choosing the chair farthest from her at the dinner table, always leaving the room first, always pretending to be extremely busy with absolutely nothing. But the problem was that Elise and my mother were practically inseparable. If my mom breathed, Elise was somewhere in the radius of 10 feet. And since I lived under the same roof as my mother, well, avoiding Elise became mathematically impossible. Then came the moment everything shifted. It was a Wednesday morning, bright and uncomfortably cheerful, when my mother had to leave early for a work meeting. I was pouring cereal into a bowl when Elise walked in wearing an oversized white t-shirt, clearly borrowed from my mother, her hair slightly messy from the humidity. I dropped the cereal box. Not metaphorically. Literally. It fell, hit the counter, and exploded like a confetti bomb made entirely of frosted flakes. "Nice," she said, laughing as she bent down to help me pick them up. "Are you planning a parade in the kitchen or something?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because when she knelt beside me to scoop flakes off the floor, her arm brushed mine, and a jolt shot up my spine so intense I nearly choked on my own breath. "You seem jumpy lately," she murmured, glancing at me. "Is college stressing you out that much?" "Yes. No. You. All of the above." I swallowed hard. "Just tired," I lied. She paused, studying me with that calm, gentle expression that always made me feel like she could see directly through every wall I tried to build. "It's okay to talk to me, you know," she said softly. "I've known you since you were shorter than this chair." That didn't help. That made it worse. Because she wasn't seeing me as an adult. She wasn't seeing me the way I was seeing her. How could she? I was losing my mind alone. But she reached out anyway, brushing a loose strand of hair away from my face in the most innocent, motherly, devastating gesture imaginable. And I flinched. Not because I wanted to, but because my body was rebelling against the universe. Her hand froze mid-air. A sad confusion flickered across her eyes. Did I do something wrong? The crack in her voice cut through me. God, did she not realize? Did she not see how impossible this was for me? No, I said quickly, too quickly. It's not you. It's just me. I'm just going through some things. I looked away, embarrassed by how childish I sounded, like I was hiding a crush on my math tutor, or something equally ridiculous. But Elise didn't laugh, didn't tease, didn't push. She simply stood, placed the cereal box on the counter, and said, "Whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here." That should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like someone had set fire to my chest. Because what was I supposed to say? How do you tell a woman nearly 20 years older than you, practically part of your family, that you can't stand being near her because your heart won't stop sprinting every time she smiles? But that morning wasn't even the worst part. The worst part came a week later. My mother was hosting a small dinner for her coworkers, and Elise came early to help set everything up. The house smelled like rosemary chicken and lemon zest, the kitchen buzzing with noise and warm golden light. I tried to hide upstairs, of course, but fate, apparently bored, decided to shove me headfirst into disaster. I was carrying a stack of plates down the stairs when Elise stepped into the hallway below, looking for candles. I saw her too late. She saw me too early. Our eyes met. The plates survived. My sanity did not. "Hey," she said gently, as if sensing my panic from across the room. "You don't have to help if you'd rather rest." "I'm fine," I whispered, even though I was absolutely not fine. She moved closer, slowly, like approaching a startled deer. "You've been avoiding me." The words were a soft accusation. Not angry. Just sad. Too sad. I froze. She stopped just a few feet away. The house was too quiet. The air too charged. Elise lowered her voice. "Did I misstep somewhere? I keep replaying things in my head, but I can't figure out what I did wrong." "You didn't," I blurted out. "God, Elise, you didn't do anything wrong. Then why won't you look at me anymore?" She stepped closer. And closer. I couldn't breathe. The plates trembled in my hands. "Because I can't," I whispered, voice breaking. Her eyes widened. Confusion shifted into something warmer, something dangerous, something she tried very hard to hide. "Honey." One step closer. Too close. I looked away, but she gently reached out and touched my wrist. The moment her fingers brushed my skin, everything inside me fractured. I stepped back. Too fast. Too harsh. "I can't," I whispered again. "Please don't." Her hand fell to her side. Her face broke. That image would haunt me for weeks. She breathed out slowly, like her chest physically hurt. Then she nodded, stepped back, and whispered, "I understand." Except she didn't. And I didn't either. Because that night, after everyone left, after the house grew quiet again, I found her jacket draped over the couch. I picked it up to bring it to the closet. And that was the moment I realized I was in deeper trouble than I thought. Her perfume still clung to the fabric. And I held it just a little too long. That was the first real confession I ever made, not to her, but to myself. I was in love with Elise Carter. And it was going to ruin everything. I tried to convince myself it was a fleeting crush, some misguided emotion born of too many late nights alone in my childhood bedroom. But every time I saw her, my stomach would betray me, twisting itself into impossible knots. Every laugh, every casual touch, every glance she gave my mother that somehow drifted my way made it impossible to deny the truth. I was helplessly, irrevocably captivated. For days I avoided her. I lingered in my room, pretending to write emails or scroll endlessly on my laptop, but it was always in vain. Elise had a way of finding me, intentionally or not, always entering the room with a lightness in her step and a warmth in her smile that made my defenses crumble. It was one late afternoon, with the sun casting long, honeyed shadows across the living room, that she caught me unguarded. I was sprawled across the sofa, flipping through an old photo album from high school, when she appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. I panicked. My brain stalled, my hands froze mid-flip on a page, my heart thudded with the sort of reckless, frightening force that could have shattered glass. I looked up and tried to act casual, though casual was a foreign concept in her presence. "Hey, I brought you some tea," she said softly, stepping into the room. I shook my head quickly, fumbling with the photo album. "No, I'm fine." Elise frowned, tilting her head. "You don't seem fine." And there it was again, that careful observation that pierced me through. The warmth in her eyes wasn't the same warmth she showed my mother. It was focused, attentive, and it made my chest ache with a mixture of longing and guilt. I hesitated, then reluctantly accepted the mug she offered, gripping it as if it were a lifeline. We sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that buzzed with unspoken words, hovering dangerously close to confessions we weren't ready to voice. The sunlight caught the curve of her cheek, the delicate tilt of her jaw, the way her fingers wrapped around the cup. Every detail carved itself into my memory with excruciating precision. "Do you ever feel trapped?" she asked suddenly, her voice breaking the quiet. "Trapped?" I echoed, unsure whether she meant the physical world or something far more dangerous. "Yes," she said slowly. "Sometimes life puts you in these little cages. Beautiful ones, maybe comfortable ones, but cages nonetheless. You can see the sky outside, hear the birds, but you're stuck in the bars." I swallowed hard. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say so many things. But the words formed into a tight knot in my throat. Instead, I murmured, "Maybe." Her eyes softened, and for a moment, I felt as if she could read every secret corner of my heart. I wanted to tell her everything. That I couldn't stop thinking about her. That I had fallen in love in a way that terrified me. But fear, that ever-present, suffocating fear, held me back. Days turned into weeks, and summer stretched lazily across the city. Each morning, each evening brought new challenges, new moments when the proximity to her became unbearable and intoxicating all at once. I caught myself watching her from across the kitchen, tracing the curve of her smile when she laughed with my mother, feeling a strange pang that was equal parts jealousy and longing. It was during one of those long, restless nights that I realized I could no longer pretend. I couldn't endure the ache, the tension, the constant whirlwind of forbidden desire. I found myself wandering into the living room, drawn to the soft glow of a lamp where she sat reading on the sofa. She looked up as I approached, her expression unreadable. "I need to tell you something," I whispered, my voice trembling. She set the book aside, eyes searching mine. "You can tell me anything." I took a shaky breath, heart hammering against my ribs. "I can't stop thinking about you." Her mouth parted slightly, and for a heartbeat, I thought I had crossed a line that could never be mended. But then she reached out, taking my hand in hers. Her fingers were warm, grounding me, and I felt a trembling thrill that almost scared me more than the confession itself. I didn't expect her to smile, but she did. A gentle, knowing smile that made the world tilt. "I felt it too," she said softly, and my heart nearly stopped. "I just didn't know how to tell you." That single confession shattered all the barriers I had built, the walls of caution, the careful distance I had maintained. I wanted to throw myself into her arms, to stay there forever, and yet a part of me hesitated. Society, family, age, everything screamed that this was impossible. But Elise didn't retreat. She squeezed my hand, leaning slightly closer. We were in the eye of a storm, a quiet moment of suspended time where the world outside ceased to exist. Over the next few days, we navigated our new reality with a delicate, hesitant grace. Every touch, every look, every brush of hands carried a universe of meaning. We walked the thin line between secrecy and revelation, our conversations charged with subtle electric tension. One evening, my mother left for a late dinner, and the house was silent except for the ticking clock. We found ourselves in the living room again, the golden sunset spilling across the floorboards. I sat beside her, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her arm, daring yet comforting. "You know," I said, my voice barely audible, "I was terrified." "Of what?" she asked, turning to me, eyes filled with that soft, disarming light. "Of this. Of us. Of feeling something I shouldn't. Of losing you." She took my face gently in her hands, cupping my cheeks, and I shivered under the tenderness of the gesture. "You won't lose me," she whispered. "I won't let you." And in that moment, all the fear that had clawed at my chest melted away, replaced by a warmth I had never known before. We leaned in, slowly, and our foreheads touched, a silent acknowledgement of the feelings we could no longer hide. The next weeks became a dance of stolen moments, quiet glances, lingering touches, and subtle confessions hidden beneath ordinary conversations. Every encounter carried weight, Every gesture was amplified by the intensity of what we couldn't yet name aloud. I began to see her differently, not just as my mother's friend, but as a person who existed entirely for herself, yet somehow intertwined with my every thought. The way she laughed, the way she tilted her head when she was curious, the way she listened with complete attention, it was intoxicating. We found solace in small, stolen adventures. Afternoon walks in the park, sharing ice cream cones by the lake, sitting in her car talking about life until the streetlights flickered on. These moments were fleeting yet monumental, the kind of memories that etched themselves into the marrow of your bones. And with each passing day, the walls between us crumbled further. Fear and doubt still lingered, but they became background noise against the symphony of our connection. One particularly rainy evening, we huddled under a small umbrella, drenched and laughing like teenagers sneaking out past curfew. My heart ached with the beauty of it, with the sheer impossibility that someone could feel so right in a world that seemed so determined to tell us otherwise. I caught her hand, lacing our fingers together, and the shock of her warmth shot through me like lightning. She smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes and made the rain feel like a private blessing. "You make me happy," I whispered, voice barely audible over the rain. And she squeezed my hand. "You make me happy too," she said, voice soft but steady. We stayed like that for a long time, two souls entwined in a quiet, secret world. And though the outside world would always be complicated, unpredictable, and sometimes unforgiving, in those moments we found a sanctuary. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was real, and that realization was more powerful than any obstacle we could face. Summer waned, the sunlight softening to the golden amber of early autumn, and with it, our secret world grew more resilient, more tangible. Elise and I had settled into a rhythm of stolen glances, whispered jokes, and touches that lingered just a second too long. Each day I woke up more certain that this was not a fleeting infatuation. It was a connection that ran deeper than fear or convention, a bond that neither time nor circumstance could easily sever. But the world outside our bubble remained complicated. My mother's presence in our lives was constant, loving, and utterly oblivious to the storm quietly brewing in her living room. I worried about how she would react if she discovered the depth of our feelings, and there were nights I lay awake, heart racing, imagining the inevitable confrontation. Would she understand? Would she reject us both, seeing only impropriety instead of love? Elise, ever perceptive, sensed my unease. One evening, as we sat together on the back porch, the sky awash in a violet twilight, she reached for my hand. Her fingers intertwined with mine, steady and warm. "You're scared," she said softly. I nodded. "Scared and guilty." "You have nothing to feel guilty about," she assured me. "What we feel is natural. It's love and it's real." Her words were simple, yet they carried a weight that lifted a portion of the burden from my shoulders. I had spent years trying to reconcile my emotions with morality, loyalty, and reason, but Elise had shown me that sometimes love transcends all the barriers we construct for ourselves. Days passed, and with each one our courage grew. Small rebellions of intimacy became more daring. A lingering kiss in the kitchen while the rain fell outside, holding hands during a late-night walk around the quiet neighborhood, sharing dreams and fears beneath the blanket of stars. Every moment was charged with a mix of exhilaration and terror, the kind of intensity that leaves your heart both aching and soaring. It was during one of these quiet evenings, curled up together on the sofa with the rain tapping against the window, that the first true confession escaped my lips. "I love you," I whispered, my voice trembling. Elise froze for a moment, her hand still resting on mine, eyes wide. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that dissolves fear and heals old wounds, and pressed her forehead against mine. "I love you too," she said. "More than I can explain." It was a revelation, a turning point. The words were more than declarations. They were promises, a bridge across the fear that had kept us apart for so long. From that moment, the world seemed both infinitely larger and smaller at once. Infinitely larger because possibilities stretched before us like an endless horizon, and smaller because when we were together, nothing else mattered. Yet life demanded its complications. My mother, despite her warmth, began to notice subtle shifts. The way Elise lingered around me, the secret smiles shared across rooms, the unusual quiet in my eyes when I returned from our walks. She never questioned, but I knew her intuition was sharp. One Sunday morning, as we prepared breakfast together, she watched us with a thoughtful expression. My heart raced. Was this the moment of revelation? Should we preemptively tell her, brace ourselves for judgment? Elise, sensing my panic, leaned closer and whispered, "Don't worry. We'll handle it together." Her confidence steadied me, and I nodded. We would face whatever came side by side. Weeks turned into months. Our love, once fragile and secret, began to solidify into something enduring. The stolen moments became routine. The hidden touches grew bolder yet still respectful of boundaries, and the quiet evenings transformed into a comforting rhythm. Elise became not just a forbidden affection but a companion, a confidant, a safe harbor from the chaos of the world. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, my mother began to see. Not through our words but through our actions. The laughter that lingered too long, the way we naturally gravitated toward each other, the small, subtle intimacies that spoke louder than explanation. One evening, months after our first tentative confession, my mother invited Elise and me to dinner with her. The air was tinged with autumn's chill, and the warm glow of the dining room contrasted with the early darkness outside. My pulse quickened, anticipating some unspoken reckoning. As we sat together, I glanced at Elise. She squeezed my hand beneath the table, a reassuring touch that grounded me. Midway through the meal, my mother looked at us and smiled. There was a curiosity there, yes, but also a gentle acceptance that I hadn't dared hope for. I noticed the change in her eyes, the soft acknowledgement that love, in all its forms, deserved respect. It was subtle, but it was there. And in that moment I realized something profound. We were no longer living in fear. We had moved beyond secrecy into a space of quiet, tender recognition. The following weeks were filled with a new kind of joy. We explored the city together, attended autumn festivals, and spent hours talking late into the night. Every conversation deepened our bond, revealing layers of vulnerability and trust that only true intimacy can uncover. One crisp evening, we wandered through a park lit by the golden glow of lanterns hung along winding paths. Leaves crunched beneath our feet, and the air smelled of damp earth and distant pine. Elise slipped her hand into mine, her thumb brushing lightly across my palm, and I felt a shiver of delight. I turned to her, unable to contain the smile that spread across my face. "You've changed my life," I said softly, and she, with that gentle, knowing smile that always made my heart skip, replied, "No, we changed each other." We walked in silence for a while, letting the simplicity of the moment speak for itself. Then beneath a large oak tree we paused. She lifted my chin gently, looking into my eyes with a tenderness that left me breathless. "Whatever comes," she said, "I'll be here. Always." I felt the warmth of tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I wanted to tell her everything, to confess that I had never felt this way before, that every part of me had ached for her without knowing it. But words felt unnecessary. The connection between us was tangible, undeniable. It was in the brush of our hands, the soft pressure of her palm against mine, the shared breath that carried the weight of months of unspoken longing. We leaned into each other, sharing a kiss that was slow, gentle, and full of meaning. It wasn't urgent or desperate. It was the culmination of a journey fraught with uncertainty, a declaration of love untainted by fear. When we finally parted, our foreheads rested together, and we both smiled, hearts beating in sync. Autumn faded into winter, and with it came a quiet stability. Our love had survived the turbulence of discovery, the tension of secrecy, and the challenge of societal expectation. We had found balance, a delicate harmony between passion and tenderness, desire and respect. I found comfort in the ordinary moments, curling up with Elise under blankets during snowstorms, cooking meals together in the soft glow of kitchen lights, sharing stories and laughter long into the night. Every small gesture became an act of intimacy, a reaffirmation of the love that had blossomed against the odds. By the time winter gave way to spring, our relationship had solidified into a beautiful, enduring partnership. Friends and family had gradually come to understand, not through explanation, but through the unmistakable joy and respect we showed each other. My mother, once a source of anxiety, had become a quiet ally, supporting us in subtle but meaningful ways. On a warm spring afternoon, as we sat together in the garden, surrounded by blooming flowers and the gentle hum of bees, Elise leaned back against me. I rested my head on her shoulder, feeling the steady rhythm of her heartbeat, and I knew that this was home, not a place, but a person, a love that had weathered storms and emerged resilient. We laughed about the early days, the awkward glances, the secretive touches, and the almost unbearable tension that had once defined our connection. Now all that remained was a deep, abiding love, rich with history and promise. Elise turned to me, her eyes shining. "Do you realize how far we've come?" I smiled, squeezing her hand. "I do. And I wouldn't trade a second of it." She leaned in and we shared a quiet kiss, one that carried the weight of months of fear, the tenderness of newfound courage, and the pure, unshakable joy of love realized. The world outside continued in its usual chaos, but within our small universe, everything was right. We had navigated the storm, crossed boundaries that once seemed insurmountable, and found a love that was honest, unwavering, and true. And in that moment I understood something essential. Love, when nurtured with patience, courage, and vulnerability, is a force that transforms, heals, and endures. We had discovered it in the most unexpected of places, against the odds, and it had made us stronger, closer, and infinitely more complete. As the sun set, casting a warm golden glow over the garden, I rested my head against Elise's shoulder, closing my eyes. I felt safe, cherished, and entirely seen. And in that perfect, fleeting moment, I knew we had found something rare and extraordinary, a love that would carry us through whatever storms the future might bring. Together we faced the world, hand in hand, hearts entwined, our story a testament to the power of connection, the beauty of vulnerability, and the enduring magic of love. And for the first time in my life, I was certain that love like this, imperfect, daring, and utterly real, was exactly where I was meant to be. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.